Have you ever walked out of a grocery store, looked at your receipt, and thought, wait, I barely bought anything? What is really happening to your money, even when you're saving it? You might work hard, save carefully, and avoid unnecessary spending, but over time, the same money you saved begins to buy less and less. Food costs more, rent costs more, even a simple cup of coffee becomes more expensive. So what changed? Your money didn't shrink, but its value did. And the reason is something called inflation. Later in this video, you'll also see how inflation once became so extreme that people needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy bread. Most people believe that saving money automatically protects their future, and saving money is important, but there is a hidden problem that many people don't think about. Money that sits still for long periods of time can slowly lose its buying power. Imagine this. In the year 2000, a loaf of bread might cost $1. Years later, that same loaf of bread might cost $3. Your money stayed the same, but what it can buy changed. That gradual increase in prices across an economy is what we call inflation. Inflation simply means the general increase in prices over time. When inflation rises, everyday goods and services become more expensive: food, housing, transportation, healthcare. And when prices rise, each unit of money buys less than before. To understand this better, imagine two friends. Alex and Jordan both save $1,000. Alex keeps the money in cash and leaves it untouched for 10 years. Jordan also saves $1,000, but puts the money somewhere that slowly grows over time. 10 years later, Alex still has $1,000, but because prices increased during those 10 years, that money may now only buy what $700 used to buy. Jordan's money, however, may have grown enough to keep up with rising prices. This simple example shows why inflation matters so much. It quietly changes the real value of money over time. Take coffee. The coffee beans didn't suddenly become 20 times harder to grow. The cup didn't become gold-plated. What happened is that every year, your dollar lost a tiny bit of its strength. When economists say inflation is at 3%, they aren't just saying prices went up. They are saying your money just got 3% weaker. If your salary doesn't grow by at least that much every year, you are technically getting a pay cut, even if your paycheck stays the same. In most countries, inflation happens slowly and is carefully managed, but sometimes inflation becomes extreme. One famous example happened in Zimbabwe during the late 2000s. Prices began rising so fast that the government printed larger and larger banknotes. At one point, a $100 trillion bill was printed, yet even that amount could barely buy everyday goods. Another famous case happened in Germany in the early 1920s. After World War I, the government printed large amounts of money to pay its debts. This caused what economists call hyperinflation. Prices increased so rapidly that people sometimes needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy basic food like bread. These are extreme examples, but they show how powerful inflation can become if it gets out of control. Imagine an auction for the last loaf of bread on Earth. If everyone in the room has $1, the bread sells for $1. But if the government suddenly hands everyone in that room $1,000, what happens? The bread doesn't stay at $1. Everyone bids higher because they have more paper to spend. When there is too much money chasing too few goods, prices skyrocket. Whether it's a global pandemic breaking supply chains or a government printing too much cash, when the balance breaks, your wallet feels the heat. Inflation doesn't happen randomly. Several forces in the economy can cause it. One major reason is when too much money enters the economy. If governments or central banks increase the money supply too quickly, more money begins chasing the same amount of goods. When demand becomes higher than supply, prices rise. Another cause is supply shortages. If important resources like energy or food become limited, prices can increase rapidly. Global events can also trigger inflation. For example, after the COVID-19 pandemic, many global supply chains were disrupted, factories slowed down, transportation became difficult, and many countries experienced rising prices. Often, inflation is the result of several economic pressures happening at the same time. Interestingly, the opposite of inflation can also happen. Economists call this deflation. Deflation occurs when prices begin to fall instead of rise. At first, this might sound like good news. After all, cheaper goods seem beneficial, but deflation can actually slow an economy. When people expect prices to keep falling, they delay spending. Businesses sell fewer products. Companies may reduce production or cut jobs. For example, Japan experienced long periods of very low inflation and occasional deflation during the late 20th century and early 21st century. Both inflation and deflation show how delicate the balance of an economy can be. Inflation quietly affects everyone. If salaries stay the same while prices increase, people can afford less over time. Savings lose purchasing power, and long-term financial planning becomes more difficult. This is why many people try to ensure their money grows over time, not because saving is bad, but because money that never grows can slowly lose value as prices rise. Inflation is one of the most powerful forces shaping modern economies. It moves slowly, often quietly, but over time it affects how people spend, save, and plan their future. Understanding inflation is the first step towards understanding how money really works.